All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Around the Draft. Joining me today is just Jake. Unfortunately, Felix had some family commitments that he had to make. I'm hoping everything's good there. I haven't heard back from him, but I'm sure he's good there. But we're going to be talking about a position that really doesn't get talked about a lot in this class. And unfortunately, it's, I think, mostly probably for the best. We're talking about off-ball linebackers. Today, we're going to do our top five only because just getting past five, it's like, Jake and I were talking pre-show, like, there's something to like about all of them, but like it's probably like one thing, and you're kind of banking on like everything else kind of getting figured out. So we're gonna talk about top five guys, and then once we do that, we are going to do, since we haven't for a while, a 2 round. We're gonna give you guys 2 rounds actually. A 2 round mock draft talking about what we would be doing for these teams. And I noticed, and I mentioned to Jake, that like we have a tendency to kind of eventually go like, team needs and this and this. Like, no, we're just going to take the players that we want to take. Like, now, granted, we're going to factor that stuff in, but just because we've heard that, maybe the Steelers want whatever or whatever else, like, I'm not picking just because they want to take them. I'm picking them because I want to take them. But we'll get to that here in a little bit, Jake. But start off just kind of overall, I kind of just said it myself, and I'm sure you probably mostly agree, but overall thoughts on this group here that we're talking about today.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, this is a pretty loaded class, so I think it's not necessarily a knock on the linebacker class, but it's definitely not at the same par with the rest of them. I think you kind of said it best. There's a lot of things with most of these players where there's like one or two things that they specialize in, and you know that they're going to do well,
Right.
and they can probably translate that to the NFL level. But yeah, for a lot of them, they've still got some things to be developed.
And that's the main problem, is like linebackers especially, and it's become a position that has been kind of devalued because of just the lack of premium players that tend to emerge, and especially first round players. Where like, okay, you want this guy as a first rounder to work out, you want to take him high and have him play early, but a lot of these guys linebackers hard nowadays, man. You got to be big enough to handle the run. You got to be quick and fast enough to handle coverage responsibilities. They have teams throw a ton of stuff at linebackers nowadays because it's easier to target them than these like 6'2" freak corners and all this stuff. Like, it's just a tough place to play, right? So a lot of teams are taking the approach of like, we're just going to try to find viable starting players. We're not going to invest a ton into it because there's so much variance there. And it kind of pushes some guys down the board, right? Like, guys that normally, in the past might have been first round picks. Now you're looking at second round, early third. And that's kind of the sweet spot for most of the top linebackers. Like, obviously, you get the freaks like Roquan Smith, top 10 pick, works out. But Devin White, Devin Bush, the guys like that, like, they just kind of end up being very one-trick pony players, or in Devin Bush's case, just not good at all. Like, not trying to pile on to Devin Bush or anything, but like, it's
hopefully
just
Devin Bush isn't watching.
right. Probably not. He's too busy figuring out where he's going to live in Cleveland right now, probably. But it's just, it's tough for these guys, right? Like, a lot of the time, you're not going to be able to come in right away and play very well. And if you don't, are you worth the first round pick? That's kind of what it comes down to. But we'll get into that, like what we think with some of these players, where they should get drafted, stuff like that. But let's start with your fifth linebacker. So who do you have at number 5 for your top?
All right. So at number 5, I have Jeremiah Trotter Jr. out of Clemson.
Okay. Gotcha.
I kind of mentioned this earlier. Most of these guys do one or two things really well, and I think he does two things really well. One of them is he is very smart, especially against the run.
Yep.
Watching his tape, I feel like there's a lot of times that he diagnoses run plays very easily. He knows exactly where to go. I think he's just a smart player in general.
Yeah.
And then his other strength that I noticed, his main one was he's really good in zone coverage. He doesn't have a lot of speed, so in man coverage he can get taken advantage of sometimes, but he's a smart player overall, and he makes good plays in zone coverage. Those are two things I think he's going to excel at in the NFL. However, the reason he's down at 5, he doesn't have that elite speed, which is hard for linebackers now because, as you said, offenses throw a lot of stuff at linebackers, and especially with all the speedy receivers, running backs, and smart offensive coordinators, it's going to be hard, but he doesn't really have the speed to keep up with players in man coverage. And I think he plays with a high pad level sometimes also.
Yeah.
But those were some of my biggest concerns. I think he's going to be solid in the NFL, but his lack of speed, I think, is going to be a detriment. But he's smart and pretty solid against the run, which will get him snaps, I think, at the next level. But he's
So I have him at 4, and for really the same reasons. With him, I'm pretty confident he's going to be a viable, like, at least rotational linebacker, like, what, first and second down guy, especially because of the fact that he's very good against the run. I think he knows what he's looking at. He doesn't have issues diagnosing plays. He isn't constantly overrunning stuff or making bad decisions and leaving gaps open. Like, very sound player, right?
Yeah.
However, like you said, in the modern NFL, yeah, he can play zone coverage. He's smart in zone coverage, but at some point, teams are going to try to line you up on somebody. They're going to try to get somebody lined up on you, man, oh man. And can you run with these guys? Can he run with running backs out of the backfield? Can he take a tight end up the seam? I don't think so, at least not consistently. And that's going to get him in trouble on third downs if he's out there. And it does limit his upside for that reason, I think. I think he's, again, like NFL bloodlines, really cool. Get that. Just he's not the athlete that you want him to be at the linebacker position nowadays, and he's a good sized player, like, he's not, overwhelmingly, like, large or anything like that, so he's not gonna be, like, a true force against the run. He's just gonna be very good, I think. Just a very solid player, but again, one that I don't think you wanna take any higher than the 3rd, 4th round, personally. Like, I think he's a guy you take because you need that, like, 3rd linebacker that maybe is your run specialist. Besides
Mm,
that, I don't know if you're gonna get much more than that out of him, unfortunately.
yeah.
My number 5 guy, is Curtis Jacobs out of Penn State. Now, this one is one that probably a lot of people will not have near their top 5, maybe not even the top 10. But I've watched a lot of him. I've been doing, about this, Jake, writing for Penn State site, stuff like that. So I've spent a lot of time watching him over the last 2 months, especially. And he just has the athletic traits you look for in a linebacker. The agility is there, the speed is there on tape. He's a very powerful player. He just needs to kind of learn how to play linebacker still a little bit, which is a little bit concerning because he's played a decent amount at Penn State. But when you're drafting a linebacker, especially one in like the mid rounds, you want them to have the athletic traits ideally. Like if you're drafting a trotter, you're drafting him because you know what he is already. With Jacobs, you're drafting him because you hope he can be more than that, right? And I think his size for his speed is very good. A little over 6 foot, 240 pounds at the combine, ran well. Like that shows up on tape. I think he's very instinctful at times against the run. He does have issues though, kind of getting washed. Like the size doesn't always help him as much as you'd like it to. Like I don't think he's a super powerful player, but he also is a really great blitzer, which is, I mean, if you're a Penn State linebacker, you can blitz. It pretty much feels like, maybe he's not Micah Parsons can actually rush the passer, but he's that type of linebacker that knows what he's doing as a blitzer. He can create some big plays in that way. Like I think he has ways to get on the field initially, but also more importantly, I think he has the traits to actually eventually get to a place where he can maybe be a starting linebacker who can cover guys, who can run with tight ends, stuff like that. So because of how far he has to go, I have him still under Trotter. I just know more about what Trotter's going to do, but I would bet on a guy like that with his traits. So
Yeah, I like Curtis Jacobs. He's not in my top 5, but
right,
I think in my top 10 I had him like 7 or 8, I want to say.
right, and again, I think it's
Um,
totally fair for him as well.
yeah, and my only real concern with him is you kind of said how he's still learning how to play linebacker a little bit. I think it's for me specifically the run plays because he's
Yeah, he
solid in
just
coverage and
he
he's
knows what
able
he's
to
doing in
read a
coverage.
quarterback's eyes
Yeah,
and he's athletic enough to be a real difference maker in coverage. But when it comes to diagnosing run plays, just pursuit angles, all of that type of stuff, the run defense aspect, I think, has a long way to go.
yeah.
But with his athleticism, I think if he can figure that out, because that's kind of more of something you just learn with experience. I think if he can figure that out, then he can end up being a special player. But you kind of said it best. I don't really know as much about him, though.
That's what it comes down to, though. Like you said, there's you have to bank on him learning how to
Yeah.
better play the run, especially because the athletic traits are there to cover, and he's already shown coverage ability at times. It's just, can he do that one consistently enough to get on the field in like third down situations, maybe to allow him to get reps, to get that better run defense diagnosis? Or is he going to just be a part-time player and probably a really good special teamer too? Like I think he'd be a really good special teamer too with his speed and size. So, we'll see what happens with him. But again, I'm banking if I'm taking a guy in that range, third, 4th round, that type of thing. This is the type of athlete and the type of player that I would want to take, just as basically a lottery ticket potential thing. So who did you have at number 4 then? No, number 5 because you Trotter was 5 for you or 4 for you.
Trotter was 5 for me.
I thought he was. Oh, that's right.
Um,
He was 4 for me. So who's your number 4 then? Sorry. Yeah, we're good.
Cedric Gray is my
Oh,
number
Cedric
4.
Gray. Okay, he was 6
Yeah.
for me. He was right outside because I view him and Jacobs kind of similarly ish. So, but go ahead.
Yeah, he's one of those players where I love his speed.
Mm-hmm.
He plays fast,
Yeah,
but it's again kind of the run defense for me that
yeah, it's a
is a
bit of a
concern.
whirlwind sometimes.
Yeah. But he's super fast. He definitely has the speed for the modern NFL. He can get sideline to sideline quick. I noticed a couple of times too, he was really effective in a QB spy. I noticed a couple of
Yeah,
times he was used at that. I think that could be a pretty significant role for him in the NFL. With how many, star
yeah, with the
QBs there
amount
are,
of linebackers
especially
that can run around, yeah, or
yeah, especially
quarterbacks.
a lot more mobile quarterbacks now. I think
Yeah,
the linebackers who can be QB spies, I think, are going to become more valuable. Um, and he gives 100% effort every play, but it's tackling and run defense are the big concerns for me. I feel like I've watched him miss a lot of tackles. He kind of struggles to shed blocks. Um, those are two pretty important things for linebackers. So uh, I really love his speed. I love some of the things he can do, but those concerns have him below the upper echelon of linebackers in this class for me.
yeah, it's the same reason I have him at 6. Is like I think that his missed tackle percentage is definitely, from what I remember, is pretty high. I'd have to double check it. Just not a super sound tackler in that way. The run defense is more about him just trying to get there quickly and be an athlete than actually trying to diagnose things, I think.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's just kind of a lot of what happens in the NFL lately is where a lot of guys come in with just trying to out athlete everybody. I think of like a guy like Devin Lloyd, a couple years ago, drafted by the Jaguars. Much better season his second year, which is great for him. But like again, sometimes it just takes time with those guys, right? Like they show up,
Yeah.
they're better athletes, they can just kind of make stuff happen at the college level. And then you get to the NFL, and like the backs are better, the linemen are better, so they're going to get to the second level and wash you out of plays better. Teams are going to do better at disguising what they're doing in the run game. So with a guy like him, like the traits are there. The same reason I have him in that same kind of boat as Curtis is like,
Hmm.
yeah, they have the ability to be a good linebacker in the league. They just aren't one right now. Like, I don't think they're going to show up as one. And when that's the
Yeah.
case, it's hard to take them higher than like the mid rounds, which again is kind of where you want to take linebackers ideally anyway, if you're going to. So again, solid player, really good for North Carolina. I just, again, you don't know with those guys. If the light comes on and it's like, oh, they can see it now, like everything looks like clear. It's kind of that like realization moment for them. Like if that happens, then you're in business. But if it doesn't, you probably have a special teamer and like maybe a part-time player, right? So
Yeah.
it's just the risk you run with those types of guys. So totally fair there. Now this is where at 3, excuse me, where I think there could be a difference between us. I feel like the way that you feel about linebackers, especially, is going to mean we're going to have the same top guy. But in case we don't, we'll get there. But who do you have as number 3 for you?
So number 3, I have Junior Colson.
Okay, so yeah, I have Junior Colson at 2. So I'll let you start with
Okay.
him.
Yeah. There's a lot that I really like about him. He plays with just really good instincts. He's a smart player. He diagnoses things quickly. He can just do a lot of things well that I think are very important for linebackers. He's solid in coverage. He plays strong. He takes really good angles, which I think a lot of players in this class struggle with. So that was
Yeah,
one thing
that's
that
true.
stuck out to me. He's pretty quick with his feet. He has good footwork. Most of the things I'm concerned about are when him tackling in open space. He kind of I noticed a couple of times where I don't know if he's just like in the moment forgetting form or something, but I saw a lot of times where he kind of like angled it a lot of times,
Yeah,
which is something
I've
you see
noticed that.
a lot of corners do or
Right.
like
Yeah.
defensive backs, but not really too much out of linebackers.
Typically, no.
Um, but I don't honestly can't really point to a reason why he would do that, but it is a concern that I have. Um, and then I think he could shed blocks a little bit better, but for me, the reason he's higher than like Trotter or Cedric is just because I feel like I know that he can do more. Um,
Yeah.
I know he can be solid in coverage. I know he takes good angles. So even if he kind of struggles a little bit sometimes tackling in the open field, that can always be improved. And he's at least taking good angles to get there.
Right.
Um, he's and he plays strong. He just does more things for me that I think will translate well in the NFL than some of the other guys. And I don't really have too many major concerns with him.
Yeah, so he's number 2 for me, and the main reason is that I'm just very confident he's a starting linebacker in the league. That's kind of what it comes down to with this class is you can get to 2 for me by just me being confident you can come and play right now. And like obviously that's kind of I'm not trying to rip on him too much or any of these other linebackers, but that's kind of what it is, right? Is like
Yeah,
if I think you can come in and play a role right now as a linebacker and play an important one, you're probably going to be number 2 in this class for me. And with him, like the coaching at Michigan obviously helps. I trust that he's going to know what he's doing at the next level. He's a full size linebacker, which is not super common nowadays. So he's in the 240s. He's going to be really stout in that way. But I think you're right. Like the block shedding needs a little bit of work. I wonder if because I forget his arm length, but I don't think it was anything exceptional. I'm gonna have to double check. But he he needs to do better at that specific because I think he knows where to go in the run. I think he knows how to attack the run. It's just sometimes he does get caught on blocks that you'd like to see him be able to shed. And at
yeah,
the next level, it's not going to get any easier to shed the blocks of these guys. He's going to have to work on that for sure. But the hip tightness is a thing too. I noticed where it's like I don't know if he moves laterally great, but I think he's smart enough to kind of get to his spots quickly enough, and he does have good speed, I'd say, for this position, especially for his size. He does have more coverage upside than I think like a Trotter does, for example. That's kind of
yeah,
the separating factor between those two for me. I think Trotter's probably a better run defender from like a smarts and understanding standpoint than him, even a little bit. But he's more physical than Trotter is. He has more upside than him as a run defender, and can have some upside in coverage and not just in like spot drops and stuff like that. So, I think
yeah,
that's the thing with
yeah.
him too, for sure.
He's with Colson. It's kind of like I don't worry about him in man coverage the same way I do with Trotter,
Right.
if that makes sense. I feel like I think he has a higher ceiling in coverage for me just because if my team drafts Trotter next year and I see him one-on-one against like a tight end, running back, slot receiver, I might be a little bit nervous. I don't think I'd feel the same way with Colson.
Right. It's not quite as much because I think that again, just Colson has a better chance of actually being able to stick with those guys and be
Yeah.
physical with them down the field too. Just a bigger player helps in a lot of that way too. So I do think that he's not one of these project linebackers, so you can take him, I think, confidently in the mid-second round and feel good about him being able to play for you right away.
Mhm.
Versus, the other guys where it's like, okay, maybe the upside is a little bit higher, but will you get there ever? It's hard
Yeah.
to say, right? That's why like I have Edrin Cooper at 3. And I will say I think there's a very solid chance he ends up being, if not the best linebacker in the class, the second best, right? Where you're probably assuming having him. But he still needs to know how to play linebacker, basically. Still, like he has 1 year of incredible production and incredible just play, which is not a huge concern for me because he's still a younger player. It's not like he's like 24 and doing this or something like that. But again, like he can be manipulated really easily. Like it's just one of those things where his eyes just aren't great yet, and it's some of the same things that I was worried about with like Devin White, right? Who that was a guy that was in the top 10 because of his athleticism. I think Cooper's a great athlete in his own right, but I worry a little bit about whether or not he's going to be able to become a good enough run defender from just like a diagnosis standpoint and being in the right spot. Is he going to get run out of plays a lot of times because he's chasing stuff? He kind of tries to just blow the play up more than he tries to make the right play right now. And in the right situation, I think he could. That's valuable, similar to like how White was very valuable for the Bucks before he kind of really fell off this last year, next
Mhm.
to Levante David. If you have a guy that you can pair with him that can kind of make up for some of those mistakes, he could be a weapon just as a guy that can blitz because he's an insane blitzer. I think he can actually legit rush the passer a little bit if you want him to. Like I've seen him do that. Just a very fun player to watch. But again, I think he's probably a year away from being a true contributor from like a starting caliber standpoint, unless he can clean some of that stuff up very quickly, which is just really hard to do at the next level. So
Yeah. Yeah, I have him at 2.
yeah, that's what I
Um,
figured. Yeah.
I agree with pretty much everything you
Yeah.
said. He has the athletic profile that I
You
think
want you want this athletic
makes
profile.
it
You
makes
just want
his
it.
potential so high for me.
Yes.
And I thought he had good instincts and awareness, but that kind of leads to just going and blowing the play up. I don't. he's got a bit more to go in terms of diagnosing things a little bit more specifically, but he does have good instincts. I think I noticed a couple times in coverage, he's smart with like crossing routes,
Mhm.
picking those up and dropping those off. He has good instincts there. He has solid instincts in the run game, but he's just got a little bit more to go there.
I think he's
Um,
just very reactionary, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't think he necessarily knows what's coming. I think he is so fast and so explosive that once he does figure it out, he can still
yeah.
make plays, right?
He
Yeah.
sees something happening over here, and he says, "I'm gonna go mess up whatever this is."
Right,
But
like,
it,
yeah,
yeah,
it's post snap, he finds it, and, like,
yeah,
more not just post snap, but, like, later in the snap than you want a guy to find it. It's just he can make
yeah,
up that ground faster than most other guys can, so it doesn't matter all the time. I think at the next level, it has more of a potential to be a problem is my main thing,
mhm,
is I don't know if he'll be able to get away with it quite at the same level he did at Texas A&M this past year because at the next level, like, they're gonna know that he's like that. They're gonna try to show him stuff to get him to kind of bite somewhere, and I think right now, I'd be willing to bet he's gonna bite on it most of the time. And, at the same time, like, there's gonna be other plays where he absolutely annihilates a running back 5 yards in the backfield. There's gonna be plays where the quarterback doesn't see him and gets absolutely destroyed, and it's gonna create a big
yeah,
play. But how many of those do you get versus the, misses his gap entirely, run goes up the sideline for 50 yards? How many is it going to be like him biting on play action and trying to get back and not able to get the tight end running behind him? Like it's just
yeah.
be a thing sometimes, right? And again,
He
yeah, good.
he feels like a see ball get ball type of
He
player.
is
Like
100%, and that's awesome to watch. But it does create problems sometimes, right? Like it just does.
yeah, it's
So
it, I think it's just over aggressiveness because
yeah,
it's all the things that you mentioned I noticed, but I also noticed in even just like one-on-one open field situations, he's just making a beeline straight to the player. He's
yes,
not really breaking down or chopping his feet at all. And I think that caused that well, I don't think I saw it, but it causes him to over pursue
hmm
a lot. So he's just so excited to go make a play, but
which
which
again
I love.
I
And with
appreciate
that
that about him. Yes.
athleticism, but with his athleticism, if he can learn to just kind of calm down a little bit and diagnose things
hmm
better, I think the sky really is the limit for him. That's why I have him at two.
Yeah,
I
it's
think he
true.
has
Yeah.
way more up aside from who I have at one. I think he has more upside than um, really anybody in this class for
Yeah, I
me.
think if I had to make a bet on like who was going to be the best player from this draft at linebacker, if it is our number one guy, it's this guy. And even our number one guy has his own issues that are more so off the field
Mhm.
than on the field in terms of I shouldn't even say off the field, it's still technically on the field, but we'll get there.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I'm assuming Peyton Wilson, right?
Yeah,
Peyton
yeah,
Wilson. This guy, I'll just start off is a freak, just an absolute freak of nature. And it sucks so much that he's had the injury history and the injury issues. He is everything: the length, the ability to diagnose the run, the ability to use his size for a guy that is 6'4", 230. Like this is a true full size. This is a throwback size linebacker. This isn't even like a
yeah,
full size linebacker for nowadays. It's like a true like this guy could have been playing in the early 2000s and he wouldn't have looked out of place. Unbelievable athlete for his size, like almost kind of just again, it doesn't look right. Like when you watch him, you're like, what the hell is it? Like, where's this guy coming from? Who made this guy in a lab? Like, what's going on here? Like, it's really crazy to watch him. But then again, you're like, okay, well, there's just not a lot to watch, unfortunately, and that's the big hang up. Now, his medicals apparently came back pretty good at the combine, if I remember correctly. So
yeah.
you're hoping that this isn't like a guarantee that he's just this going to be this guy that's banged up because if he's not banged up, he's an older player. He's gonna be 24 as his rookie year. I know that. But he hasn't played a ton, unfortunately, right? So like he doesn't have as much wear and tear from like an actual just playing standpoint. Now you hope his obviously his lower body can hold up and everything else, the shoulder, but this guy when he's on the field, like I would take him in the first round if he didn't have injury concerns. Late in the first round because I don't draft linebackers high if I'm a team, but I'd be willing to take him in the bottom like 10 picks or so somewhere if you really need that like premium linebacker. And it's just unfortunate because I don't think he's going to go that high because the position value and also just the fact that the injury history is very real. But just on a film standpoint, there's not a whole lot that you can go to and go like, yeah, that's going to be why he isn't a good linebacker. Like, there's just not a lot there.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. He does so many things well. He's very explosive, great with
Stupid.
his hands. Um, He's very athletic. He's flexible. He covers a
Mm-hmm.
lot of ground. The only thing, and even with the injuries, I still have him at 1, but
Yeah.
that's really my only main concern with him. He can be a little over aggressive at times, but I feel
Right,
like he
because
would say
I
that
think with a
about
guy like
most of
him,
the
again,
guys in his
him and
class.
Cooper are very much the same as like, I'm a better athlete than everyone else out here, so I'm just going to go destroy the play. It's just, I think with him, he does have more of the smarts to him and the
Yeah,
ability to, like, he's more developed as a linebacker, I should say. Like, 'cause
yeah,
I'm not saying Cooper is not smart, but he's, unfortunately, even with the lack of playing time because of injuries, he's had more time to just be a linebacker legitimately. And that's something that I think will matter a lot to teams if they're deciding between these two. Is like, yeah, Cooper doesn't have the injury concerns and he's a little bit younger, but we're pretty sure Peyton Wilson can come and be a great linebacker like right now. Like
mhm,
this minute, if I had to play like, and I always say this with players to kind of give this idea. I said this with Latu too. If I had to play a game tomorrow in the NFL and I had to pick one of these guys in this class to play linebacker for me tomorrow, it's Peyton Wilson. And it's not very
yeah,
close because Colson, yes, he could play tomorrow. Some of these other guys could play tomorrow. Wilson might be able to dominate tomorrow. Like there's a potential for that. Like I would not be shocked if he's like a Pro Bowl level player as a rookie if he's healthy. That's the type of player we're talking about here. It's just hard to pass up on that unless you truly just can't get past medicals. Like if your doctor's like can't do it, I get it. Outside of that, it'd be hard to
yeah.
pass on him.
And the medicals honestly really aren't even that huge of a deal for me.
Right, because we can't base off too much because we don't really know
Yeah.
what they're looking
Well,
at.
if I'm correct, he was injured in I think 2020 and 2021.
I think 2022
But
he missed some time too, but I have to double check that.
yeah, well, I pulled up his game log, and he played 11 games in
Oh, that's right. He was
2022
so
and
not too
12 in
bad.
2023. So
Yeah,
he's played 2 pretty much full seasons. So I'm
mostly
not
full seasons. Yeah,
too. That's kind of why I'm not really. I think if I was more worried about the injuries, I would probably have Cooper first because they do a
right.
lot of the same things well. But I'm really just not that concerned with his injuries. He's played 2 full seasons since then.
Hmm.
So if he feels fine to me, and I mean, players just get injured sometimes, you know.
They do, and like that's
It
why the
is
medical
kind of
checkups
similar
are
to
so
Law too.
important.
That's a good
Yeah, it's
point.
very similar because Latu's been healthy for the most part since his medical retirement, and his was even more concerning because it was literally a medical retirement, right?
Yeah,
Like
I was
it's
way
just
more concerned about his.
exactly, yeah, and like I get that for sure, but again, we don't have access to the medical report. We don't know
Yeah,
what the injury risk is with him, and I think we'll know pretty early into day two of the draft, especially because I think it will still be a day two player just because of the position he plays. But if he goes very early on day two, I think we can go ahead and say the medicals are probably pretty good. If he falls below some of these other linebackers, especially, or if he's like a third, fourth round pick somehow, then it's probably not great, and we'll know. But even if it's like maybe you get 5, 6 years out of him, right? That you're probably gonna be really good 5, 6 years. So it's
yeah,
like it's still probably something I'd consider pretty early. But again, like he's a guy. If you guys haven't watched him, if you're watching, like go watch him play. Even the highlights are just funny, honestly. Sometimes just like how is that dude that big and that fast just running down the
he's
field?
fun to watch. He's fun to
Yeah.
watch.
And something else, like again, depending on how much stock you put into their grades and everything else, only missed less than 5% of his tackles in college this past year. 26 coverage stops was the most by a linebacker, according to PFF. This guy just, again, there's not much you can throw at him that he's not going to be able to handle, and it hasn't shown to be able to handle. So if you need a linebacker, if your team desperately needs a starting linebacker like tomorrow, this is the guy you probably want them to draft, even with the
Yeah,
medical concerns. So that's definitely what I would say there. So that'll take care of the linebackers. Luckily, again, we got through that. Wanted to make sure we talk about at least these top guys, but time to get into the fun stuff, right, Jake? Like
yeah,
this is really what the draft season is about, right? You got to get your, especially if you're not doing the predictive mocks, which we will probably do one closer to the draft, like maybe the last week before the draft. We'll try to do like what we think is going to happen on top of what we would do, but this is going to be what we would do 2 round mock draft. Pull up the simulator here.
let's
Jake's
go.
going to be doing, you said you wanted to do odds, Jake, so we'll have you do odds. You'll be kicking things off. Let me just make sure everything's pulled up here.
Peyton Wilson, first overall.
Yeah, there you go. Bears definitely need a linebacker. They didn't spend $1 billion on that position, right? Uh, that was still kind of crazy to me. Anyway, so we're going to be starting off here with the Bears, of course. So let's start the draft. And I have a feeling I know where you're going to go, but hey, you can
Yeah, it's
surprise
Caleb.
me. Yeah,
It's
okay,
Caleb.
that's fine. Yeah. We will be doing, by the way, if you want to do trades, because to make it more like what we would do as well. Like if you don't want to take the player at the position you're at, you could trade with the pick you have if you want, and we'll just make sure it makes sense. If you
Yeah.
want to trade for a pick that I have, vice versa, we'll do that. Not going to do that early, at least for me, with my first pick here. We take Caleb here for the Bears. If I'm doing this, if I'm Washington, there's been a ton of conversation about what quarterback is going to be taken here. We know it's going to be one. Is it going to be Jaden Daniels? Is it going to be Drake May? There's even some people saying it's JJ McCarthy. Not for me. I have issues with May in terms of things that I'm hoping he can get better at quickly at the next level, and that won't inhibit him too much. But he's still the guy that I think you have to take care if you're taking a quarterback. The upside is the highest of the guys that we have here. He's shown a ton of high upside plays. You need to get a guy like this in your building. And like Daniels, I still like a lot of his game, but he's not. I just can't take him over May, so I'm going Drake May here. And I think that, by the way, I do think that's what's going to happen in the real drafts. I don't think the
I agree.
Drake May stuff. I don't think it's as real as people want it to be. I think it's
Yeah.
kind of between him and maybe Daniels, but it's probably May.
Yeah, I just don't really believe a lot of stuff that comes out around this time because
Me either. It's
you
hard
never
to
know what's real and what's
being put
other
out
teams
there.
just trying to get in the head of other teams.
Right. Like I will say JJ McCarthy thing feels much more real than like the Will Levis thing last year. I will say that. But I still
I
even
agree.
him, I'm like, is he really gonna be a player you trade up for? Like, I don't know.
I understand him having more stock than
Right.
than
The
Levis,
age,
but I still
yeah,
like I personally wouldn't take him in the top 10.
exactly.
Like I
Yeah.
don't.
So
That's just me though. With the Patriots though, this is one pick that I've been stuck on like this whole offseason in terms of whether they should just take Daniels or trade it.
right. And like this is why I mentioned about the trades, because I want it to be like I don't want to just go pick by pick because that's not going to happen, right? Even if it's what we would do, like
Yeah.
we would want to do. So like I will say for me, I don't know if any of the picks that I have coming up, I'm going to try to move up with you. So you'd be moving up with probably one of the teams that you would have access to. So the obviously the odd teams. But I
Okay.
don't know who we would do. Like if you're doing this because you still want to do this for like you'd want the team that you're moving up with for it to make sense for them.
Yeah, that's what I'm
So
trying to.
right.
Because for
So
the
like
Patriots, I think if I'm the Patriots, I'd probably trade this pick. But
right. But who's coming up then? Right. It's
yeah,
like
uh,
it's tough, right? Because like if you're not taking McCarthy in the top 10, no one's trading up for
that's what
him.
I'm saying.
I mean, Daniels, there could be a team that would value him enough to come up and get him, but like, who would that be for you then, right? Like, you'd have to kind of sort that out.
I think we'll just take Daniels.
Take
For the
Daniels, okay,
Patriots.
that's
Just get him their
fair.
QB.
That's fair. I think that like the whole thing with
I
him
honestly do
being
think the draft Daniels.
yeah,
But personally, I would trade it. But
right. And
not
I
the
think
GM.
for me, like right, I think for Daniels, like I do like him a lot. I do. It's just again like his profile's pretty just not great if you're looking at historical precedent.
Yeah.
And you obviously you want to scout the player and not just like what other players with similar style have done, but it's important to factor that in, right? Like it just is. Like it's tough for a player that has his profile of like takes a lot of sacks when he's pressured, doesn't really play make as a thrower when he's pressured. It's more about either running or getting the ball out and away. Like he's kind of just got a weird profile. But I think the Patriots, though, you're not as difficult as it's been for them the past couple of years. You might not be picking this high next year, and next year's quarterback class may not have that guy that you can take. That's the third guy that is at least legitimately like a first round talent, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it kind of comes down to. And I get why some people want them to trade it, and even if they do trade, I think it could make sense. But still, taking your quarterback here is just kind of easy to sell to the fan base, especially too.
Yeah.
Now that the Cardinals are on the board, yeah, go ahead, give me Marvin Harrison. Not really going to question that at all. Give Kyler just a freak outside. Give him like really actually like the prime version of AJ Green that he didn't play with because they signed him, if you remember. Like I think that's a similar. Like I think he's a similar player to him. And for those who say that's not that makes it not worth this pick, then you just didn't watch AJ Green play. I did. I had to watch him all the freaking time as a Steelers fan. Anyway, Chargers up here. So this is a hotly contested pick too.
Yeah.
So for you, Jake, though, like, what is your decision here? Are you going to move down? Do you want to take the receiver, the tack? Like, what is your thought process here?
I think I would probably go with Neighbors. I think.
Right. Yeah, that's a lot of people
Just
kind of
losing Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I could understand. I mean, Joe Alt would be nice. You could have Slater and Alt at tackles. I think that's a pretty solid base for your line. I also like Bowers here, but
Yeah, Bowers was a pick for me for a while.
it's really for me for these two. It's between Neighbors and Bowers. I just like Neighbors a bit more. So
yeah, it's more. It's just easier to translate that skill set a little bit. I think it fits into more schemes, and also the thing with the Chargers that you can't, in my opinion, I understand it's a Greg Roman led offense, which just makes me sad to hear that. Like, I just don't want to talk about that out loud, but you still can't go into a season with Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnston as your top two receivers. Like, I just, you can't do that. I don't think in good faith if you want Justin Herbert to like take you seriously. Like, that's just what it comes down to. And I think Harbaugh knows that too. I think that there's a plan at receiver. Maybe it isn't with this pick, but it's probably later than, if not this pick. So
yeah, I don't even blame them really for, they were in a real tough.
No, I mean, they had to do, at least one of them had to go. Like, that was a guarantee. The fact that both of them go does suck a lot. I'm not going to lie, but it is what it is, right? Like, this was going to happen eventually. So
yeah, so could see a second year leap out of Quinn Johnson.
Could. I
don't think so, but
yeah, I was not a fan of him in the draft in general. So like, I'm kind of like, whatever. This is kind of what I expected. But you're going Neighbors then?
Yeah.
Okay, Neighbors. All right. So the New York Football Giants. I'll be picking for Felix's favorite team. Obligatory Daniel Jones draft pick spot. This is what we're talking about. Can we do better than they did last time they picked in the spot? Which I think was, they didn't pick.
I don't think that'll be too hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be difficult to do that. For me, this is tough because like the top three quarterbacks are off the board. I'm sorry to JJ McCarthy fans. I'm not even saying he's not going to be a good player. I just don't view him as the type of talent that you take in the top 10. Straight up, just isn't what I would do. So I'm not going to do it. I know that's not realistic, probably based on what we've heard, but it is what it is. For me, it's like, so taking Alt would make sense because this offensive line has just been so dreadful and you don't know what you're going to get out of Evan Neal. However, I don't love the idea, if I can avoid it, if it isn't like I have to do it, taking a player and then playing him a different position. Because Andrew Thomas is left tackle of this team. Joel, I'm sure, could play right tackle. Is he going to be as good of a right tackle as a left tackle? You would assume not, just because it's really fucking hard to do that. But it's possible. So because of that, though, I think that it's a better fit for this next team. I'm kind of giving you a softball on your next pick, but I'm going to go ahead and actually take Rome Odunze here. I think that he is worthy of a pick like this. I think he, in a normal receiver class, similar to Neighbors, both of those guys are bona fide, like top receivers in a class type of players. They just happen to be in the class of Marvin Harrison Jr. at the same time. So I don't think I have any problem taking him here. And they need a weapon like this, especially if they're going to roll out whoever it is at quarterback next year. The corpse of Daniel Jones, the whatever third reclamation project, Drew Lock, Italian stallion guy, whatever it is, like whoever it is, they need somebody to throw to. So I'll give them Rome Odunze here.
They have the funniest quarterback room in the league.
It's got to be the funniest, right? Because like it got the like half dead neck of Daniel Jones. Like I said, third team Drew Lock, which is diabolical, and then Tommy DeVito, like I said, out there. Yeah, his agent running around the sideline. Like, I don't know. Anyway, got you for the Titans here. What do you got?
I'm gonna take Joe Alt.
Yeah, I figured. That's why I said I'm gonna give you a softball here. I mean, this has been mocked forever, and it's basically like, is he gonna be there or not? Kind of. That's, for me at least. That's kind of what I think is gonna decide the pick. But we'll see what happens there. We'll go Joe here for you. Now the Falcons. This one's tough because I think it needs to be a defensive player. As much as like it'd be very funny for them to take Brock Bowers and just have like the wildest receiver room of all time between him and Pitts and London and like just all these guys. But I'm not going to do that simply because I think that it would destroy the universe if it happened. So I'm not going to do that. ultimately, for me, this is either corner or defensive lineman or just pass rusher in general, right? And I think PFF has it right, defensive lineman or quarterback here, cornerback. I mean, I really love Quinion Mitchell. The more I watch him, I I think he's going to be CB1 for me. We're going to talk about them. I think next week is cornerbacks actually, so we'll talk about that more. But it's just like because you didn't see a lot of what you love in him on tape. It was what he showed once he was allowed to actually play normal cornerback instead of playing whatever the hell off coverage that Toledo kept running him in. Yeah, it worked. I'm not going to blame them for it. It's the same idea of like don't do something that you don't have to do. Like if it works, don't if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? That's the whole adage. But it just was difficult to evaluate him, and then he comes out and is like the best athlete in the draft at the corner position. He's got good size. He dominated Senior Bowl practices. He showed his ability to play man and all this. Like, it's just kind of hard to find something not to like about him in terms of his film and what he showed since then.
I could see him going here.
I could too. Especially because
think
Terrell
really a reach.
Like Terrell's a really good player, but if they can't resign him, or if they do, but they want that second corner that they still need. But if I'm taking a player, I personally, and this is probably going to be a bit of a hot take for a lot of people, I think the first defensive player off the board should be Derzon Newton out of Illinois. So I'm taking him here. I think between him and Latu, from the pass rushing standpoint, interior pass rush has become more and more important, and the numbers show that. Not only have we always known that it's kind of more impactful on quarterbacks, guards got paid this offseason. Interior defensive linemen are getting paid more and more this offseason. Chris Jones just got a gigantic contract because of what he can do as an interior pass rusher and not much else, right? The league knows that, and I think they're going in that direction. I think Newton's the type of player as a pass rusher that has the athletic upside, more so than Latu, I would say, and has all the same polish, I would say, that Latu has as well, just from the interior position. So for me, I'm taking him here. I think that'd be a huge get for the Falcons there.
I was thinking of Newton at 9 for the Bears.
Yeah, I would also be totally up for it for them too, because they already have Sweat to get an interior guy. But now that I took him from you, what do you think?
Another guy that I think actually, I'm not going to take him, but I think Latu would be a nice fit here too to pair.
I do, because Sweat is more of the like imposing athlete, like speed, power guy, and Latu is the more refined pass rusher. So it would make sense from a schematic standpoint. Yeah,
I think.
Showing you what you got here. All the edges are on the board, obviously. All the corners.
Honestly, I think I might actually go Latu here. I think
Latu. Okay. Again, this is what we would do. So if you do it,
I have him. I think a bit higher than. I don't think I haven't really seen him going in the top 10 in too many.
No, and a lot of that I do think it's going to be the medical concerns, but we don't have to worry about that in this draft because after it's done, nothing happens. It's just what we would do for picking players. So I think if you're just basing,
I would go Latu at this point. Yeah,
gotcha. Okay, I don't really disagree with you, especially because the Dunes is not on the board. I think I'd have a tough time between those two, just to make sure Caleb Williams pretty much can't fail unless he just actually sucks. Like he'd have to basically suck to fail if that was the case, like with that team. For the Jets here, so they're tough because it was so easy just to put a tackle for until free agency, and they actually saw the tackle spot for at least this year, right? And so they can still easily take one. But this is a team that is trying to win right this minute. They are all in on this year with everything they've done, what they do with the Rodgers trade, banking on him. Hopefully he's healthy for them this year, which honestly, I'm not sure how I feel about that possibility, but they have to kind of go with that at this point. They're all in for this year. And to me, if you're going all in with the way the receiver room looks right now and the weapons right now, I need an offensive weapon for Aaron Rodgers. I need somebody who can win in the middle of the field, who can create big plays off shorter throws that he's been doing a lot more in his later career. I'm taking Brock Bowers here at 10. That's what I'm doing. I know they have a bunch of tight ends. I know they have a bunch of like guys like that. No one is Brock Bowers in that room. The only guy that is Brock Bowers in terms of talent level is Garrett Wilson. He needs a running mate. I don't think the receivers are better than him at this point in the draft, so I'm taking Bowers.
Yeah, I like that. When I was choosing for the Bears, it was getting to the point where I was like, he's still on the board, and I really just want to take him.
Yeah, I know. Like, Komet's a good enough player that I think.
Yeah.
I mean, they'd be different roles, but still, yeah, it'd be fun.
All right. The Vikings,
So this is where
I
it gets
mean,
tricky, right?
I
Because
don't.
like,
Okay, I don't think I wouldn't take. I don't want to take JJ McCarthy at 11, but at this point, the Vikings quarterback right now is, I think,
Sam
Sam
Darnold.
Darnold.
Sam
Yeah.
Darnold.
Oh yeah.
It's tough,
I'm gonna
right?
have to. I'm gonna just go JJ. I
Okay.
don't want to draft him this high, but I think at this point, honestly, I'm not going into next year
Yeah.
with Sam Darnold. So
Right. Right.
you have Justin Jefferson. I think you want to take advantage of that. I don't
Right.
know if McCarthy's the guy that gets it done, but I do think he's better than Nix and Penix, and you need a QB. So
Yeah. I think this is closer to the value of McCarthy. Like it's
yeah,
still a little high for me, but like I have him as closer to like a top 40-ish player than a top 11 player. But when it comes to quarterbacks, like if you would take a guy in the first round anywhere, you can take him at 11 because it's still the same idea of like you think he can be a franchise quarterback. And if you think that, then or if you think there's a chance of that, then he's worth kind of taking anywhere. But
yeah,
especially at this point, you didn't have to move up. You have that other pick that we'll get to later that you get to also take for them. Really good deal. This would be great for them, in my opinion, if they could do this. But we all know that's not going to happen that way. So we'll say. Broncos on the board here. So I do like Knicks more than a lot of people. I do think he has a really nice floor as a player, and they have Jarrett Stidham at quarterback. But honestly, I'm kind of embracing the tank kind of mentality with the Broncos again. Like I kind of want to just let them play things out, figure things out a little bit, and then attack quarterback later. At this point, with 4 guys already off the board, so at pick 12, I'm not looking there. Honestly, I'm probably looking at either a corner or an edge player for them. And I think the idea of pairing Quinion Mitchell and Patrick Surtain together is kind of hard for me not to look at. Just go, okay,
yeah.
try throwing on us. Good luck with that. Like, good luck throwing on us on the outside. Yeah. So I think I'm going to take Mitchell here at 12.
I like that. All right.
Your Raiders, what are you doing?
Um, at this point, we're gonna go with let's go. I'm taking a corner here
Okay.
for sure.
So it's just which one you want then? Your
I'm
choice,
it's
essentially.
between Cooper and Arnold.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm gonna go Arnold
Okay.
here.
Yeah. I've been thinking
I would
about him more and
love to see
more.
him on the Raiders next year.
Yeah, I've been watching him more and more. Like we'll get to our corner rankings later, obviously, but he's just so smooth, man. Like everything
Yeah.
he does, like he's not necessarily the most explosive athlete, and like the fact we saw that before. Like I don't think he jumps off the page in terms of like straight line speed, but every movement he does is easy. Every single thing he does looks easy, and that's just something that's hard to ignore. Same thing with the Doomsday. Like that's kind of the thing we've talked about the receivers already, but he's the guy that like he doesn't look as explosive as he is because of how smooth he is, but he
Mhm.
does have that athleticism. Like you can see it at the combine and everything else. Like it shows up. And I think the same thing with Arnold, where it's like, sure, he didn't test off the charts, but you watch him move and you're like, yeah, that's the dude who just can move and do stuff on the field. So very interesting to see what happens with him. Saints. I so they need a tackle desperately, especially if Ramchick can't play. That's just kind of they've put themselves in a position where they're going to have to use even more resources on the tackle position, which sucks for them because Penning is
Yeah.
essentially 2 first-round picks because of the trade up they had to do for him.
Mm. Yeah.
It's devastating, honestly, but I'm still a big fan of Fashanu. I'm taking him here. He can play left tackle for them right away. If a
Mhm.
disaster happens, maybe you can just make Penning play right tackle and tell him just to try to not die out there. Like that's kind of what it comes down to. They need a left tackle, especially because they've kind of bought themselves multiple years of Derek Carr with the way they've handled the cap. You got to at least protect the guy, right? You know that, Jake. Like if you're gonna play him at quarterback, at least don't let him get crushed constantly. So
You have to have an offensive line
exactly.
if you want to
So
succeed with Derek Carr.
right. So that's what I do there with them. So you got the
Yeah,
Colts up here,
I think the Saints. I would go offensive line too. The
right?
Saints. I think they have one of the bleakest
It's
futures
just it's
right
really
now.
hard
It's
to see
just
like what it looks like in 2 years. You know what
yeah.
I mean?
I think it's gonna look
Like
exactly like it does right now in 2 years.
that's the problem,
Just
right? Is like, can
yeah,
they get any worse or better? I don't know.
yeah. Colts,
So Colts
Colts.
up
I'm
here.
gonna go with Cooper at this one.
Cooper. Okay. Yeah,
Um,
I mean
I
he's
don't think they really need wide receiver like that.
not as badly
Um,
as it. as it kind of makes as people seem to think so. Like I
Yeah.
think they can get away with what they have because they brought Pittman back. Now, if they didn't bring him back, it'd be a whole different story.
Yeah.
I think this would have to be a receiver, but they didn't have that problem, so I think they're good there. So Cooper makes a lot of sense for me here too. Okay, Seattle here, man. I mean, all the edges except for lots are on the board. That's kind of tough to pass up. Murphy's here as well. Still, Fuaga, like all these guys right here that we have, I could see being Seattle Seahawks if they're all on the board here. Their interior is just so bad right now, dude. Like, I just the problem is I think Fatani could play tackle, but maybe he plays tackle later. Maybe he could be a right tackle if they decide Lucas isn't the answer long term, and he can be a guard for you right now. Like that's kind of my thing. But then if you're doing that, like maybe Fuag is a better fit because he's probably easily translatable inside than even Fatanu is. It might even be his best position. So it's kind of tough. I feel like, I mean, Jackson Powers Johnson is there too. Like he's just already an interior. Now I'm going to go Fuaga here. I think that his ability in the running game will be really nice for them as they try to kind of get that two-headed monster going at running back again, like they did last year. And I think he can play guard right now for you. And I think that's probably his best position in the NFL anyway. So I'll take that there. What do you got here at 17?
I'm gonna take Jackson Powers Johnson.
All right, there you go. Were you gonna play in the guard? You think then because they signed Mitch Morse?
Yeah, I think so. But I really think.
I mean, it's only a like a 2-year deal. I think it was for Morse, so it's not this huge thing.
But I like the depth that he provides because he's so versatile. So I think he'd be. I think for the Jags right now, it makes sense to get a player like that who can go to other positions if need be.
Fair enough. Yeah. I think so for the Bengals, it's really interesting because one, I'm picking for a team that I don't particularly care for, but that's whatever. But I think for them, it's really tough because they need help at defensive interior really bad, especially because Reader hasn't come back and didn't come back as far. I forget where he ended up signing, but I know he signed with someone else. And their tackle position is still iffy. Like I know they signed Trent Brown to be the placeholder, and he's probably really good next year for them because he's been good consistently for a long time. But I still don't love the fact that who they have at left tackle, Lander Brown Jr. Like I just don't love him playing left tackle, but it is what it is. He's going to play there. I'm kind of tempted to give them Latham and just like have that another hulking tackle ready to go for when Brown leaves probably after this year. They could use a guy like Byron Murphy though really badly. Like, I mean, it's probably Murphy if they had their pick here because they dress tackle this year. They'll look for it later. Murphy can come in right away and be a difference maker, so I'll take him here.
Yeah, I like Murphy there.
So Rams up.
Rams. I think I'm trying to think of Rams roster right now.
So I will say like edge is a big thing that they could still have help with because in general.
I was looking at
tackle is still something they could definitely get better at too. Both spots, honestly, Havenstein is kind of getting up there a little bit too, and also left tackle. I forget his name right now, but he's kind of been like he was a later round pick that has played well, but not spectacularly well or anything.
I think I'm gonna take Fatanu.
Fatanu, okay, that would be a fun fit with them because I think you get your entire offensive line essentially would be settled if he plays left tackle year one. Like you have the crazy interior that they built, and then you have, like I said, Havenstein still a good right tackle, so I think that'd be really good for them too. Steelers, man,
all right.
I mean, I'm going to make the pick that I both believe is going to happen, and also I would make myself. And Marius Mims is going to be the pick at 20. I think that's what's going to end up happening based on what I've seen from them right now. Like they're very transparent with their scouting. Stuff like if they go to your pro day, if they meet with you at the combine and your top 30 visit, you're going to probably be drafted by the Steelers if you're there. Like that's just kind of what they've always done. He's the only one who hits all those metrics so far as far as I can see. So kind of makes sense to do. Also, I just think Mims is the best player on the board for them at the position they're trying to get better at. So we'll do that. Dolphins here at 21. A lot of edges on the board still. Now, obviously, their edges when they're healthy are very good, but they're not right
Yeah.
now, so that's something to consider. Some offensive linemen still here that would make sense. So a lot of options here still.
I think I'm gonna go with Latham here.
Latham, okay, yeah, because I think he could play both interior and tackle depending on what they
Yeah.
need, and I think that's really valuable for them too because they have just so many injuries. It seems like every year too with the offensive line. Eagles here, man, I'm kind of tempted to take an edge and just have the craziest edge group of all time. But I'm not. But I'm not doing that. The edges are falling, which is very interesting for us. I will say, like
Yeah.
Turner and Verse, I do think are really good players, but they're not the type of players that I would take in the top 10. So seeing them
Hmm.
fall is not that surprising to me. Like I have issues with both of their games to the point where I'm not really sold on them being top 10 picks. So it's not a big thing for me. I'm probably taking, if it's me, I was really happy to see Wiggins wasn't really 170 pounds and he was just sick at the combine, I found out. And he's more close to like 180 something. Because now I
Uh-huh.
feel like I can take him this high. Like I'm gonna take
Yeah.
Wiggins here. Because I was worried if he was gonna be like another Emmanuel Forbes type of thing, where it's just like a stiff breeze will knock him out of his coverage assignment. Like, not a fan of that type of stuff, but 185, I
Stiff
can live with
breeze.
that. Yeah, literally, that's what it felt like with him. So,
Can't play him on a
but
windy day.
right, yeah. So we got the Vikings here then.
I'm gonna take um
All the edges are
I'm
here.
gonna take
Remember
Jared
that.
Verse
Yeah, it's a Jared
here.
Ver
We
Yeah,
gotta
I
start
mean,
taking some of these edges. And
we
I
got
think I
Grenard,
think he'd be
so
he'd be solid with the Vikings too.
yes, we got him here. Okay. Cowboys. Oh boy. Trey Benson. No, I'm not gonna take him this year. I think for me, they man, the Cowboys are tough. Because like they have no running back. They need another receiver. Tackles a question mark now with Smith gone. But I don't really like any of the tackles at this point. Man, they don't have a center.
I feel like this is one of those teams you can kind of do anything.
Yeah, I mean, look at their needs here. Like, I agree with all these. So it's like, which do you want to do? I think I'm taking Barton because I think he can be the center
Yeah.
and maybe like anything else if they need him to for like a week. Like, that's kind of where I think he's gonna fall for me is like
I
just
like
take him
that.
because he's there. Packers up here. Man, you can go a lot of ways with them too, I think, in my opinion. But what do you think here?
Uh,
Kind of just showing you where we're at with these guys.
so I was gonna take Barton with this one.
Yeah.
I think let's go with Tyler Nubin.
Yeah, that's one that
Let's
I'm
go with
like,
Tyler
I wish he
Nubin.
tested a little bit better, but I love his tape in
I do
Minnesota. I
too.
watch a lot of Big Ten guys. He feels like a guy that should be drafted in the first round just off his tape. And the Packers would really value him, especially now you got McKinney and him. Now you're
Yeah.
cooking at safety. Now you actually have something going on back there. Bucks. Turner's still on the board. I'm taking Turner. They need edge
Yeah.
help. It's way too late for him at this point. Even I would have taken him at least 10 picks earlier than this. Just kind of happened that way. Give me Dallas here to 26. Cardinals up. What do you got for them here?
It would be fun to grab Brian Thomas Jr. here and pair him
Yeah,
with
yeah. I
Harrison.
thought
That
about
would
I'm
be
like,
really fun.
man, it'd be crazy, but I would
Um,
get it.
yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Kool-Aid though.
Kool-Aid. Yeah, they need some more help at corner, and he'd
Yeah.
be good, like low, high floor player for them, I think, especially. Bills, not sure if Tony is around anywhere, but if you know Tony, he's one of the Bills guys. One of many we've had at different times. But I think I'm taking probably Brian Thomas here to be just like that
Yeah.
pure down the field target. I'm kind of torn between him and Mitchell in terms of who I like better, but I think Thomas Jr. just his production last year, what he's shown at the college level, even if it was mostly a 1 year sample, is just better than anything we've seen from Mitchell. And I'll bank on that in this offense with Josh Allen. So I'll go ahead and take him at
I think
28.
the Bills should be required by law to draft a wide receiver
Yeah,
at
I mean,
28.
here's the thing: is I don't think they have to. I really don't. We talked about this only. I don't because when you take a quarterback like Josh Allen, you develop him the way you have. You expect him to elevate the room. You expect him
Yeah.
to take care of his receivers to get them where they need to be and to be productive with them. However, if a guy like Brian Thomas Jr. is at 28, I don't think you should avoid taking him at that point. Like at that point, especially with the way the board's fallen, I don't love the rest of the guys around this range for them. So it depends on how the board falls, but yeah, for sure.
Lions.
Lions.
Okay.
So it's tough for them too. Like corners are kind of gone that you love at 29.
Yeah.
Like
if I didn't take Kool-Aid at 27, I would have taken him here.
right. Like
I think some of the edge rushers are gone at this point too. I think I'm gonna go with Frazier.
Okay. See, I've cooled on him a little bit. Like I think he's firmly like a later second round pick, but they do need potentially a replacement
Yeah.
for Ragnow at some point because the injuries keep piling up with him, and you worry about that a little bit. The Ravens. How do I ruin their lives? No, I was kidding. I think like corner is a big need for them still, but the corners I don't love here. Offensive, like they do need a tackle, I think, to develop. So Guyton would make a lot of sense. But if I'm the Ravens, after what I saw from Lamar last year in this new offense, I'm taking Adonai Mitchell and saying, listen, we need more firepower.
Yeah.
I want to throw the football more effectively even than we did last year. Give me a guy that I think could profile as wide receiver 1 instead of having like 5 wide receiver 2s on the team. Like that's kind of what it felt like at times last year. So
He'd be fun with Zay Flowers.
him and Zay would certainly be difficult to deal with. Let's just say that. Zay running around underneath and then Adonai going down the field all the time. Yeah, be very tough. So, what do you got for the Niners here?
I'm going Tyler Guyton.
Yeah, they need to start replenishing this offensive line. So
unless like all the linemen fly off the board here, if I'm the Niners, I think I'm probably just going
the best.
Unless maybe a really good cornerback falls, I'm probably just going with the best.
Right, that's kind of the question. Yeah, is that? And then for me here with Chiefs, especially in light of recent news with Rashee Rice. I don't know what his situation is. You need one anyway. Give me Ladd McConkey as a first round pick. I will stick to this. I believe he could be one. In this case, he's going to be.
Yeah, I love Ladd. The Panthers get to pick now. Let's go.
Yeah, the Panthers. Yeah, we finally get the Panthers involved here. Too bad we took a lot of the receiver talent. No, but so yeah, they have plenty of needs themselves. Where do you want to go here, you think?
There's so many places that I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
I would have.
Guys.
I think that. You know what? Let's go with Peyton Wilson.
I was about to say that.
Let's go with
I know like they need receiver help still, but they also have nobody at linebacker legitimately. Like,
they have a lot of places where they don't really have anybody.
That's
I think
you
could pick a lot of positions here and be like, you know what, that fills a need.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the benefit of a team that is picking, which would be picking first overall if they didn't do what they did. Pick 34 for the Patriots here. So we obviously go Jaden Daniels. I think they still need help with him. They still need a lot of help at receiver. It's a little early for all these other guys for me, a little bit, like not super, super early, but there's been a ton of receivers already off the board. I think they could use, like, especially because Judon is, I think, in his last year of his deal, and he's coming off injury, if I'm not mistaken. They really need some pass rush depth. I'm probably, of the guys that are left here, I'm probably taking, man. Yeah, as much as I think if there's going to be a defensive team that can kind of get the most out of this guy, even without Belichick there, give me Chop Robinson as just a fire starter. Yeah. That'd be fun with him because if they could find ways to get him on the field effectively, like that'll be scary for them for sure.
And their defense is already pretty impressive.
Yes, it still is even with some of the stuff they've lost. So, but Cardinals up again here for you.
So you
got Marvin Harrison Jr.
And
you got
Kool-Aid, I think.
Kool-Aid, yes. So you handle receiver, corner. So that's kind of where you've attacked so far. Interior of the offensive and defensive lines are still a big concern for sure.
I think Let's go Fisk.
Fisk? Okay. Definitely talented enough to get drafted this high, and we'll see what happens with him in the real draft. But I'm kind of curious what teams think about him because again, his tape doesn't match the athleticism in terms of like not necessarily like he doesn't show the athleticism, but I don't think it makes up for some of his deficiencies. But he is going to be one of those guys that's looked at very favorably, I think, from a talent perspective. So we'll see what happens there. Washington on the board again here. They still kind of need a little bit of everything. Like they filled spots, but like barely, like only sort of. Like they brought in edge help, but like it's Dorrance Armstrong, right? They brought in linebacker help, but it's Bobby Wagner, like 4 or 5. Like
They got the players they have now. If they got him 5 years ago,
they'd be an all-star. Yeah, it'd be like awesome.
Yeah, Austin
like,
Eckler.
Austin Eckler, yeah, it's like when Austin Eckler used to be able to run like more than 15 miles an hour. Like, yeah, it's really would have been really good a while ago. I think actually for them with the way the board is right now, man, I think just early for him, maybe a little bit. I really like Mike Sanders though.
Yeah,
I like, and I
I do
think
too.
slot corner is
He's
an
pretty high on
undervalued
my
position.
corner list.
Yeah, like he's a very, but again, because he's a slot corner, he's very undervalued. But more and more, like the NFL is trying to tell us that it's important without proving it to itself. Like they don't take these guys high enough, but everybody needs a slot corner. It's like if your defense doesn't have a premier slot player, you probably aren't a top 5 defense. Like just like if you look back on it the past like 5 years, it just now slot corners are a bunch of different types or slot defenders. You could have, in one way you have Mike Sanders, still another team has Kyle Hamilton, who's 6'4" and a freak. Like whoever that guy is doesn't matter. It's just is he a slot defender and can he do those things for you? If he can and he's great at it, you probably have really good defense. So, I don't have any problem taking him there. Chargers at 37. So you took Malik Neighbors at 5. You got him. So you took receiver off the board. Where do you go here then, you think?
I kind of want to go Troy Franklin a little bit just to pair with Neighbors, but I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go cornerback here.
What's your flavor?
Give me TJ Tampa.
TJ Tampa. Okay, cool. Yeah, they're another team that just needs help everywhere, especially on defense, because they had to just shed salary, they had to shed bad players, just everything had to be shed. It was rough look.
Going through a lot.
Yeah, for sure. So Titans up here again. So we took Joe Alt at pick 7. Still could use some weaponry. I know they spent an entirely too much amount of money probably on Calvin Ridley, but that's what happens when you're trying to build around a young quarterback. Edge is a big problem for them still. I kind of like the idea of Chris Braswell as power rusher with them. Easy speed to power type of guy. We talked about him with their edge rankings. Like I think he'd be a very good addition to them. Offensive line still needs help, but they took Alt. I don't want to double up this early in the draft. I think you get some other guys like interior a little bit later. I'm gonna go Braswell here.
Yeah, I like it. Oh, the Panthers again.
Panthers again. Yep, they do have 2 early picks because of the Brian Burns thing. So we'll see how they.
Who did I just pick for the Panthers?
So you took for them Peyton
Wilson.
Yep. So now you're looking at receiver here, and I know
I'm gonna go with Troy Franklin.
Yes, I know you like Franklin, so I'm gonna throw him in here. Okay, so Washington at 40. Man, they have 2 picks like this too, and I took for them already. It was just Mike Sanders still. So, I'm trying to think who would be the best fit for them at this point. They did lose Cameron Curl. So safety could be a potential weakness for them. But do I like Bullard enough to take him here? Haven't watched a lot of him yet. So I'm not sure if I'm good there. Jatavian Sanders is sitting here. I think he's worth this. Like a lot of people soured on him with his combine testing. Just watch the film. I think this is an Isaiah Likely situation where it's like he looked like a great athlete when he was in college, and then he didn't test super great, and everyone was like, "Oh, maybe he's not that good then." And it's like, now he might be better than Mark Andrews, depending on who you ask. Like it's kind of crazy, but I like him a lot, so I think I'm willing to take him here. Add to that offense with Drake May. Packers via the Jets. Thanks, Jets.
I think I went safety for them first round.
You did. You took Tyler Newman, yeah. So you're looking at offensive line didn't address yet. defensive interior didn't address yet. So, something like that. That's kind of what their needs are, at least. But
Ooh, Horo. I don't even want to say that name, but I actually. Okay, this is going to be considered a reach by many, but I'm going to take Rook at this
You
pick.
liked him a lot in the defensive.
I love him. He's probably one of the players I think is the most underrated.
Right.
This
So yeah, I
class.
mean, again, this is what you're doing. I have
I
no
won't be
problem
mad. I
doing
know if anyone's watching, they might think it's a reach, but
it.
it's justifiable to me.
Right. I get that though too as well. So looking at the Texans here, they did a really good job this offseason. There's not a ton of things I'm super concerned about with them. I think corner still is a bit of a need. You didn't bring back Steven Nelson so far. Dixon is kind of your main guy that you're looking at right now. You did address linebacker with Shire, so you don't have to worry about losing. I can't think of his name right now. Signed with the Vikings, I think. Cashman. I think probably Rakestraw here. His testing was a little bit better at the pro. I think he played more like that, the speed that he put at the pro day than his combine testing.
Yeah.
Still think he's a good player, so we'll take him here at 42. Falcons back up. So they took, for me, I think I took Johnny Newton at 8. So you're looking at
I'm going with Lassiter.
Lassiter, okay.
Yeah.
Now I have a question with him, because I don't know how much you've watched with him, and it's tough for me because when we're doing the cornerback rankings, I'll settle this, but I just worry that he's not going to be fast enough to play on the outside a lot. His his testing was so bad, and I don't see a great athlete on tape either. It's like, is he going to be a slot guy? Is it like I don't really know what to do with him, but I wanted to ask you that.
I'm a little worried about the speed. I think for me, the thing is he's good in like in and out of breaks when
he's
playing
quick.
receivers.
He has
quick,
the
that's
quickness.
Yeah, I mean that is a good point.
Not saying you shouldn't take him, like we took him already,
Yeah.
but like I was just curious if you had.
I think he'll be okay just because he doesn't really get lost on breaking routes, but if he's up against like Adonai Mitchell or something, and on the outside running deep, I think he's probably going to get beat.
Right. Yeah. I think that he has to be used carefully, but I think he could be valuable still. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I get that though, for sure. So Raiders here. So I'm gonna ask you, Jake, as a Raiders fan. I'm taking one of the quarterbacks here. So which one do you want me to take? Do you want me to take Nix, or do you want me to take Penix?
I would take Penix, and I also
Okay.
think the Raiders probably would take Penix.
Me too. I actually agree with that. So I think I'm going to take Penix here at 40.
This would be my. They took. I gave him Arnold in the first round and then Penix in the second. This is exactly what I want to happen.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So
if they don't trade up for Jaden Daniels, this is exactly.
There you go. Fair enough.
So
I don't have much issues there. I do like Penix. I was talking about this with my friend the other night. I want to like Penix as a first round pick, but I can't because I just don't. I can't get past his profile as a player. He's a great thrower of the football, but the accuracy isn't ideal at times. The ball placement can be iffy, and despite his 40 time, people are going to talk about his 40 time. He doesn't play like that, guys. I'm sorry. He does not play like that
he doesn't.
And I was telling him this. I'm like, the film doesn't lie. If you don't make plays as a passer with that speed, it does not matter how fast you are. You can run a 4 flat as a quarterback. If you don't run with the football and you don't extend plays and make plays as a thrower, I don't care how fast you run. It just doesn't matter. Like, you have to prove to me that is in there. Same thing with CJ Stroud, where it's like he at least showed us in that Georgia game, and often just other times too, just not as much as he did in that game, that he can play extend, that he can make plays out of structure. He can do those things. We just didn't trust that it was going to last until, well, at least I didn't, until we did it in the NFL. And it's like, oh, well, shit, I'm stupid, I guess. But like with Penix, I haven't seen it in so long that it's just like, I don't know if I can do it, right? Like it's tough.
Yeah.
But I get it. In the second round, though, anytime in the second round, if you're taking a flyer on him, he could end up being fucking awesome to watch. So I'm totally cool with that. Saints here at 45 for you. So we took Olufashanu. I took him at 14. Got Denver's pick here at 45. What are you doing here to try to salvage the Saints? There's one guy staring me in the face that feels like a Saints player, but I don't know if you agree with that.
So you took Fashanu, right?
Yes, I took Fashanu
Okay.
at 14.
So we got the line off the board. I kind of like Darius Robinson here.
Yep, that's the
A little
one I
bit.
was saying.
Is that who you're talking about?
Yep, because big-bodied, powerful edge.
Yeah.
If there's a guy that has that profile, you can pretty much assume the Saints are interested. Like that's kind of what it is, and I think that this would be honestly great value for Robinson, in my opinion, at this point with what he did this past year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
great for him there. Colts for me, it's 46. So we took it
I
was
think
Cooper
DB.
DeJean. You took Cooper
Yeah.
DeJean. So
Yeah.
we have corner kind of settled for the most part. Receiver is still something I'm interested in. Is the right type of receiver here? That I don't know. But if we're looking at options in general, I mean, you know what? I'm gonna take a player that I'm much higher on. You guys know this, who watch the edge rankings. That I know that they don't necessarily like need edge because they have a bunch of guys there, but this could be the best of the bunch if he works out. I'm gonna take Jonah Ellis here for the Colts at 46. I would take him even higher than this, but works out where the Colts, in my opinion, get kind of a steal there. Giants 47 gave him Rome Odunze at 6. Get Seattle's pick here for the trade for Leonard Williams. So you get an extra second round pick here.
I want to take Bo Nix here so bad.
Yeah, right. You want to just be like, all right,
So bad.
Felix, I got you a guy. Now he's old and he's weird, but I got you a guy, and he's not Daniel Jones. I think he would jump for joy. But
yeah,
but I think he would actually want you to take Spencer Rattler if you're trying to help Felix out.
True.
He's at.
True.
But I know that's not what we're doing. But yeah, I mean they still need a lot of help interior.
Who did we take for them?
It was the Dunze.
Okay, I was thinking I might take a receiver here, but we didn't get a Dunze.
Yeah,
so.
Dunze is the big thing. I mean, you could double dip, but it depends on how you feel about it. But
let's go. Let's go Jordan Morgan.
Jordan Morgan. Yeah, I think he's going to be an interior player, and that would be big for them right now. Yeah. I think that'd be very helpful.
I think they could use help pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, especially on the offensive line. I'm not going to argue with you there. Jaguars at 48. So you took for them, I believe it was a corner, right? Or was it? No, it was Jackson.
JPJ.
So they got the interior kind of settled then because he'll play a spot in there, or he'll try to fit in there immediately. I still think edge is a need for them because I don't love Trayvon Walker that much. But at this point, the edge is kind of flown off the board. The DBs are a little bit kind of flown off the board too. I mean, this is a tough spot for them a little bit, actually, in my opinion.
There isn't really anyone that jumps out for me.
I think what I am going to do, though, and he's a player that I think could go even earlier than this, personally, but I'm going to take Xavier Legette to be like that big-bodied, powerful guy that they needed at receiver with. Calvin really wasn't this type of player, but they don't have that type of guy on the outside right now. So I'll take Legette here for them and see if they can kind of get that offense going with Trevor Lawrence. Pick for now with the Bengals. So I took J.C. Latham for them, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that's what I did. Let me double check. No, I took Byron Murphy. J.C. Latham was the Dolphins. Byron Murphy, so interior taken care of, but still like tight end's a big need, which I already took Jatavian Sanders from you, so it might not be a fit there. And then tackle's still a big thing for them.
With the Bengals, it really comes down to what they end up doing with T. Higgins.
Yeah,
but I do think
could be a need still too.
Probably stay
at least this year
for next year. So I don't think they really need a receiver. I'm gonna go. I'm about to butcher this name, but Samatai.
Kingsley Suamataia.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that too. I think he'd be a great developmental tackle because he won't have to play right away with the guys they have there, but he could being a left tackle for them in the future with Orlando Brown as he gets older a little bit. So no problems there. Eagles via New Orleans. The rich get richer, as they say, as they tend to say. Um, took I believe it was Wiggins to them. Yeah, Nate Wiggins. So they took care of corner. I think, man, linebacker's so bad for them. But
Yeah.
I don't know if if I
I don't
take.
think I'm drafting one this high.
I was thinking if Cooper the problem is I don't know if Cooper helps them this year. So it's like, do you But then again, the Eagles don't care about that most of the time. They're like, we're just going to take him because we might need him in 2 years. It's like, okay, great, I guess. I don't know. Man, I'm trying to think of what I would do and what the Eagles would maybe do here. I mean,
You could just get another edge rusher.
right,
There's Isaac.
Adisa Isaac. You know what? I think this would be very fun. I'm going to take Roman Wilson. More firepower on offense,
I like it.
for sure.
Steelers.
See, so you took, or I took Mims at 20, took care of tackle. So receiver's a huge need, center's a huge need.
I'm gonna go Ricky Pearsall here.
Ricky Pearsall, that's
Yeah.
that's a good
I've
player.
been eyeing him for a minute.
Yeah, I like. He's a good player. I wouldn't have any problem with that if I was as a Steelers fan. Rams. So we took for them, if I'm not mistaken, that was Fatanu, right? So tackle / guard is taken care of for them. Like guard's already taken care of, but they have a guy who can play a little bit of everything. Defensive line is still a thing. Linebacker. Quarterback is sitting here, the heir apparent to Matt
Could
Stafford.
take Bo Nix. I could see that happening actually.
You know what? Just for the fun of it, I think I like Nix more than way more than this, in my opinion, in terms of draft value. So you get a guy that you can hopefully develop behind Stafford for a year or two before he kicks the bucket or whatever he does. Eagles here at 53, another pick for them. They're just their picks are crazy. The fact that they have this much draft capital.
I keep seeing them.
Yeah, but
we just went
Roman Wilson is what I did. So took care of receiver and took care of corner. So, is this where you have all these picks in the second round? Do you take a linebacker here maybe, or do you
honestly? Yeah, I'm gonna take Edgerrin Cooper here. I
take
think
Edgerrin Cooper.
He might not help year one, but
They'll figure out something.
I think he can bring some.
They'll figure something.
And to be honest, they could just use help in general on that defense.
Right. Browns. All right. I guess I'll pick for the Browns. No, they even with the addition of Jerry Jeudy, I think receiver is still a big need for them long term. I think that defensive interior, it's still kind of iffy at times for them. Could use some up a linebacker, but even Colson, I like, but I don't know if I want to take him here with their first pick of the whole draft. You know what? I'll take Coleman here. I think he's the type of player they don't have, like that big-bodied, powerful, can kind of go up and get it type of player. They have Cooper as that route runner, and they have Jeudy as, again, more of a route runner type. They don't have that kind of ball winner type, in my opinion, right now. So I think Coleman would make a ton of sense here at 54. Dolphins up here.
Think we went offensive line already.
Yes. So they went at 21 was J.C. Latham.
Okay.
So offensive line taken care of from that perspective. Defensive interior is still a thing that they could need help with if Christian Wilkins gone.
Kind
stuff
of
like that.
Chris Jenkins.
That's what I was thinking too. If you're trying
I think I'm gonna go with him.
Yeah, Jenkins I think would be a great fit as a replacement for Wilkins. So Cowboys, I've let it sit long enough. For me, I'm taking Trey Benson at running back. That's my first running back off the board. So, and he's a little bit lower for them, but I'm going to take Trey Benson. I think he's the best one in this class. I think he'd be a great fit for the Cowboys. So I'm going to take him there. Buccaneers, they took, or I had them taking Dallas Turner. So they took care of edge, at least, one of their edges there. So you have kind of free reign. There's a lot of things you could kind of add to this team at this point.
Yeah. Let's go with there's so many. We took an edge for them already, right?
Yes, Dallas
Okay.
Turner. Yeah.
So let's go. Fuck, dude, I don't know.
It's tough. It's tough for them at this
This is
point.
the first one
I
I've
mean,
really been stumped.
like guard, like interior is still a thing that they could use their center, which unfortunately,
Yeah.
like center's kind of tough at this point. But um, took edge linebacker, like with Devin White leaving, but they kind of got KJ Britt going as like that kind of rundown guy. So maybe you don't need that. Um, I mean, I liked what I saw from Rashad White at running back, but it's still something that they could get help with. I don't think he's like an every down back player, ideally, if you can avoid that.
Yeah.
Jonathan Brooks is sitting here. That's pretty good value for him, but it's tough. Yeah, there's a lot of guys you could go with here.
I think let's go with Brooks.
Brooks? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, I think that he could be more of the like he's closer to an every down type of player to me
Yeah.
than what White is. And again, White performed admirably, but he's not really a running back in a lot of ways. It's kind of weird with him. He kind of just had to be one, so he was. So the Packers, I think we addressed offensive line, right, or defensive interior, and we also took Tyler
Safety.
Davis.
Yeah.
So line, offensive linemen, developmental guys could still be valuable here. Speaking of which, Kieran Amagaji out of Yale could definitely be a fun guy. I haven't watched him very much. I do need to watch more of these kind of like tackles in this range before the draft starts, but I could see him being the type that they would like. So I'll take him here. Texans at 59 now. So for them, we took at 42, it was Ennis Rakestraw. That was their first pick. So they have corner settled. So receivers still, like they obviously had a dig, so that's kind of not as big of a need
Yeah.
anymore. Defensive interior could still use some help. Linebacker, they addressed with Shire, but still use some other guys there. You kind of have your pick of like who you like the most out of those positions that are left, I would say.
Let's
So
go. Let's go with Kyrie Jackson.
Kyrie Jackson. Okay. Yeah, big long
Might be
corner.
a little bit of a reach, but I
Yeah, but
like
big
him a
long
lot.
corner, on the outside for him, I could see that being something that they would like with D'Amico Ryans there. Bills. So we took care of receiver in the first round with it was Brian Thomas
Thomas, yeah.
Jr. Huge get for them. Still don't love they extended Dawkins, which is good, but I can't even remember Spencer. I forget his name for them. Like exactly, which is why it's like I don't know if I want to keep him around a long time. I could still use they could still use tackle help, but again, the tackles are kind of getting wiped out at this point. Not going to double dip at receiver. Um, could use some help at linebacker still. Defensive back. I'm going to take Javon Bullard. I think he's been staring me in the face too long, and he's really. I do think he's a good safety. I think they could still use more help in the back end with what they've had to shed this
He
offseason.
has been staring us in the
So
face.
yes, I'll take him here. Lions here they took in the first round at 29 was Zach Frazier.
I'm
Took
going
care of
Isaac.
interior. Going Isaac. All right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that too. I like Isaac a lot. So we'll take him here. Ravens, I did take it was AD Mitchell, I believe, in the first round. So took care of receiver. Offensive line is still a thing, but I don't love that for them right now. Edge, corner. I mean, looking at who we have at this point, Braylon Trice feels like a Raven. I will say that.
I was gonna say those last couple of picks. I've been itching to take him. I just have not had like
No,
the right
I get it, but
chance.
he feels like a Ravens pass rusher to me,
Yeah.
like legitimately. So, plus I think he'd be a good fit for what they do. So we'll take Trice here. 49ers at 63. We addressed offensive line with Tyler Guyton in the first round. It was, yep. So they addressed tackle. So corner's kind of the biggest need left in the roster, but at this point, like I don't even know who you'd want to take a corner. I mean, I
I'm
have
not. Yeah.
somebody there's two guys I would be willing to take at this range, but I don't know if you would or not. I'm thinking of like, where's he at? Andrew Phillips, I love a lot. Actually, we'll talk about him probably when we do our top tens, of course, and then Renardo Green as well. I like a lot too. So those are two guys I'd consider. But otherwise, I mean, like this is a loaded roster. You can kind of do whatever you want, honestly.
Yeah. Let's go with. Huh. Scroll back up a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
real quick. Thank you. Let's go. This might not make sense, but I'm gonna go with Tez Walker.
Tis Walker. Okay.
Yeah,
A lot of speed.
I, I, I'm very high on him.
Right. I know you are. Yeah.
This,
So that makes
this,
sense for you.
yeah, I don't know. It probably seems like a reach for a lot of
No, I
people, but
mean,
I
I
think,
think like any of these receivers, it just depends on what you care about and
yeah,
what you kind of profile. I do worry about the hands consistency. I worry about the route running a little bit with him, especially from what he showed in North Carolina. But it's still like his tape in 2022 though makes like this like I think that his 2022 tape would land him even a little bit higher up on this list than where he ended up going. But still, it's kind of you're balancing that, and
I
then
think he would be
yeah.
used very well by the 49ers.
You would imagine so, right? Like that's kind of the thing with him.
Most receivers do.
Fair enough. Yeah. And I think for the Chiefs, for me, because of the loss of L'Jarius Sneed, because of the fact that they decided to move on from him, corner is a bigger need than probably people think because they have drafted a bunch of guys there, but I don't know how many of them are really going to stick. For me, I'm probably taking Renardo Green. That's probably who I'm taking here. So that'll do it for us. That was our 2-round mock. A lot of interest. We ended up not doing trades at all just because we didn't feel the need because of our board, right? Like McCarthy would have been like if you're going up for quarterback, obviously he's going to be taken probably right in this range. Like,
Yeah,
but because he isn't, like if he's looking at it there, his range is probably from like 4 to 8 somewhere in real life, like realistically, based on what we've heard. Maybe that doesn't come to fruition. Maybe the Giants, or not the Giants, the Vikings, and just take him at 11 like we did, right? But either way, that's what we would do with this mock. We'll do at least one other major one, I would say, before the draft, like I said, and then we will do a predictive mock in our last show before the draft. So
yeah,
that'll do it for us this week, guys. Check back next week. We're going to be doing corners. Definitely a lot of fun to talk about the corner class. Haven't gotten to do that yet, so do that. And then we finish up with safeties the week after and slot players as well. We'll focus on like slot only players in that episode a little bit too. And then we'll do our final mock, and we'll actually be live streaming the at least day one of the draft. We'll talk about day two. We'll see if that is something everybody wants to do, but day one at least we should have,
oh yeah,
be going live. We'll have hopefully some fans of different teams popping in at different times. Need to talk to everybody about that, but definitely tune in for that, and we'll be excited to bring that to you guys. And we'll see you guys next week.